September 14, 2016. Grapevine, Texas. 5:43 in the morning. The sky over Acorn Woods Park was still dark when firefighters arrived at a small blaze near the shoreline of Grapevine Lake. Fires in parks were not unheard of. Teenagers, sometimes. A campfire that got out of hand. But what the crew found that morning stopped them cold. In a patch of dense weeds, just off a worn footpath, was a blue children's paddling pool, the kind you'd find in any backyard in any suburb in America. It was on fire, and inside it was something no firefighter, no matter how seasoned, could have prepared for. A body. The fire had been so intense, the damage so severe, that the responding officers could not immediately determine whether the victim was a man or a woman, an adult or a child. The remains were charred beyond recognition. It was one of the most gruesome crime scenes the Grapevine Police Department had ever encountered. Captain David Perez of the Grapevine Police Department later said the brutality of the scene shook his entire department. He would be moved to tears at the victim's memorial service. Haunted, he said, by the thought that what lay in that blue pool could have been his own daughter. Within hours, forensic technicians were able to extract fingerprints from the remains. By midday, they had a name: Jacqueline Vandegrift, known to everyone who loved her simply as Jackie. She was 24 years old. Jackie grew up in Frisco, Texas, one of those fast-growing North Texas suburbs where new neighborhoods seem to appear overnight, where high school football stadiums seat tens of thousands and Friday nights feel like something sacred. She graduated from Wakeland High School in Frisco, and by most accounts, she was the kind of person who made a room feel warmer simply by walking into it. Friends described her in nearly identical terms: vibrant, funny, smart, genuinely kind. Not in a surface-level way, but in the way that shows up in small moments, in the way she treated people, in the way she remembered things about others that most people would have let slip. One friend, Jackie Tan, remembered her this way: "She made me feel like I could be myself and just be goofy and funny. That girl was the smartest girl I've known. She had her whole life ahead of her. She had plans." And she did. Jackie was a licensed esthetician, someone who had already built a professional skill before she was done with school. But she wasn't finished. She had enrolled as a junior at Texas Woman's University in Denton, pursuing a degree in nutrition with an emphasis on wellness. Her friends said she was passionate about health, about helping people feel good in their bodies. She wanted to build something with that passion. She wanted to help people. She was outgoing and social, the kind of person who could walk into a room of strangers and leave with new friends. Her friends confirmed to police that it was not unusual at all for Jackie to strike up conversations with people she didn't know on a night out. That openness, that warmth, was simply part of who she was. She had not been reported missing on the morning her body was found, which told investigators one terrible thing: whatever had happened to her had happened fast and recently. The people who loved her didn't yet know she was gone. The evening of September 13, 2016 began, for Jackie, as a practical errand. She had decided to walk over to a bar on Fry Street in Denton, called the Fry Street Public House, to ask about a job. The restaurant industry was something she knew. Waitressing, bartending. It could help with tuition, with rent. It made sense. She arrived at the Fry Street Public House at around 8 p.m. The bar was lively. It was, after all, right across the street from the University of North Texas campus, and college nights in Denton have a particular kind of energy. Jackie found the bartender and asked about available positions. While she waited, she struck up conversation. Seated nearby was a man named Charles Bryant. Bryant was 31 years old, a personal trainer and bartender who lived about 20 miles away in Hazlet, Texas. He had a chiseled, athletic build and an easy smile, the kind of man who could seem, at first glance, charming and self-assured. He and Jackie began to talk. Surveillance cameras inside the bar captured the moment. You can see Jackie, engaged and relaxed, talking to the bartender and to Bryant. At 8:45 p.m., just 45 minutes after she arrived, she posted a tweet from her phone. It read, "I'm glad I decided to get off Tinder and walk to a bar." She had originally planned to meet someone from a dating app that night, but had changed her mind. The spontaneous decision to walk to Fry Street instead seemed, in that moment, like a happy one. Around 9 p.m., Jackie, Bryant, and the bartender left Fry Street Public House together and walked to a second bar, Shots and Crafts, also on Fry Street. There they joined a group of women and spent another 45 minutes or so talking, drinking, enjoying the evening. The night was going well. A woman in the group later told police that Bryant had handed her his business card, promoting his work as a personal trainer. Then the weather turned. A heavy rain began to fall, the kind of downpour that clears out a street quickly. Around 9:46 p.m., surveillance footage showed Jackie and Bryant leaving Shots and Crafts together. They walked to Bryant's car in the parking lot. The footage shows them sitting in the car for approximately 30 minutes before driving away. At 10:30 p.m., a gas station camera in Denton captured Jackie inside Bryant's vehicle. She was alive, and she was the last known person to see her that way. Shortly after 1:30 a.m. on September 14th, Jackie's cell phone pinged a tower in the coverage area near Sand Hills Drive in Hazlet, Texas, the street where Charles Bryant lived. After that, her phone went silent. What Jackie could not have known when she sat down beside Charles Bryant that night was what the weeks before September 13th had looked like for him. Bryant had met an 18-year-old named Caitlin Mathis in June 2016. Mathis had just graduated from high school and was working as a server at Buffalo Wild Wings in Grapevine when they met. Bryant was 11 years older than her. She described him in retrospect as smooth, someone who seemed to have his life together and knew how to make a good impression. He was very charming. Mathis later told CBS News correspondent Jim Axelrod in an interview for the program 48 Hours. But that charm, she said, began to erode within weeks. He was very controlling. He always had to know where I was, Mathis said. He needed my constant attention. She recognized, she said, that he was a narcissist. And as she prepared to start the fall semester at the University of North Texas in Denton, she decided to end the relationship. She broke up with Bryant on August 23, 2016. He did not accept it. The very next day, August 24th, Bryant showed up at Caitlin's dorm at Kerr Hall on the UNT campus. He hadn't known where she lived. He found her name on the door. Campus police were called. He was issued a criminal trespass warning and told not to return. He returned. On August 31st, Bryant showed up at the restaurant where Mathis had just started working. It was her first day on the job. She walked in, and her heart, she later said, dropped to the floor. He stood there and looked at her, and when she told him to leave, he didn't say much. He just looked upset. Her new coworkers told her he had been there the day before too. On September 6, what would have been their 3-month anniversary, Bryant returned to Caitlin's dorm at Kerr Hall. He had brought flowers and a handwritten 2-page letter. He slipped past the security desk and knocked on her door. Mathis was terrified. She hid in her closet and called 911. Bryant was arrested by campus police and charged with criminal trespass. Within hours, he had posted bond and was free. He immediately created a new email address and used it to contact Caitlin. "Here I am, heartbroken, and with a criminal record for bringing the girl I love flowers," he wrote. Mathis obtained an emergency protective order. On September 7th, Bryant was arrested again, this time on a stalking charge. He posted bond 2 days later. 1 week after that arrest, on September 13, 2016, Charles Bryant drove 20 miles from his home in Hazlet to Denton. He arrived at the Fry Street Public House at approximately 7 p.m. He had been out with friends earlier, but was alone by the time he settled into the bar. He was sitting there waiting, 2 chairs away from an empty seat, when Jackie walked in. Texas Ranger James Holland, a specialist in psychopathic and sociopathic crimes with the Texas State Police, and one of the most sought-after interrogators in the country, would later say of that night, "I think he enters the bar in mission mode. I think he was going to kill someone that night, no matter what." When Grapevine police began tracing Jackie Vandegrift's last movements on September 14, 2016, they worked quickly. She had not been reported missing, which narrowed the window considerably. Investigators pulled surveillance footage from Fry Street Public House and Shots and Crafts. They spoke to bar staff, to patrons who had been there the night before. They found the footage of Jackie and a man together at both bars. A group of women who had been at Shots and Crafts that night remembered the man clearly. He had given one of them his business card. He was a personal trainer. His name was Charles Bryant. Tips began to come in about a white man seen standing near the fire at Acorn Woods Park in the early hours of the morning. Witnesses described him leaving in a light-colored SUV. Another critical tip: Someone who knew Bryant told investigators they had seen a blue children's paddling pool in Bryant's backyard, a pool matching the one that had been used to burn Jackie's body. Meanwhile, investigators were building a digital trail. Cell tower data placed Jackie's phone near Bryant's home on Sand Hills Drive in Hazlet at approximately 1:30 a.m. on September 14. GPS data connected Bryant to the area around Grapevine Lake in the early morning hours of the same day. Then came the Walmart receipt. Security footage from a Walmart store captured Bryant at 4:43 a.m. on September 14, roughly 2 hours before Jackie's remains were discovered. He purchased a shovel and cold medicine. Investigators later determined that the shovel was purchased with apparent intent to bury her body before a different disposal plan was ultimately carried out. Bryant was not immediately arrested. Police had placed him at the bars with Jackie. They had circumstantial evidence, but they needed more, and they needed to speak to him. Their opportunity came on September 18, 2016. Bryant, having violated his protective order by emailing Caitlin Mathis again in the days following the murder, was brought in by Grapevine police on that charge. It was in the interrogation room that the investigation shifted. When Grapevine detectives hit a wall, Bryant was calm, controlled, almost eerily composed. They brought in Texas Ranger James Holland. Texas Ranger James Holland had spent 26 years in law enforcement. He had interviewed serial killers, sociopaths, predators of every variety. He had developed his own methodology, a philosophy of interrogation built on psychological understanding rather than confrontation. "I think of it almost like mind-bending," Holland explained to 48 Hours. "You're dealing with someone who's controlling, manipulative, and is trying to almost impress their will upon you. They feel that, at the end of the day, they can change your mind. And what you're basically doing is stepping in the back door of their mind and steering them without them knowing it." When Holland sat down across from Charles Bryant on September 18, 2016, Bryant initially denied knowing who Jackie Vandergriff was. He had never seen her. He didn't know what they were talking about. Holland did not confront him directly. Instead, he walked Bryant through the evidence, methodically, chronologically, piece by piece. The surveillance footage from Fry Street Public House, the footage from Shots and Crafts, the gas station camera, the cell tower data, the Walmart receipt, the shovel. As the evidence stacked up, Bryant's position became impossible to maintain. He shifted. He admitted that, yes, Jackie had died while she was with him, but he insisted it was an accident. He told Holland that after they left the bar together and got into his car, Jackie had asked him to choke her with a zip tie during a sexual encounter. He said he had a zip tie in the car. He said it went wrong. He said he panicked. Holland wasn't finished. He suggested they conduct a memory exercise, a technique designed to draw out suppressed or withheld details, and it worked. By the end of 6 hours, Bryant was providing specific details about how he had disposed of Jackie's body. Details, investigators confirmed, that only her killer could have known. Charles Bryant was charged with the capital murder of Jacqueline Vandergriff on September 19, 2016. He was also charged with tampering with and fabricating physical evidence. When Grapevine police executed a search warrant on Bryant's home on Sand Hills Drive in Hazlet, what they found told a story. In a large blue trash bin outside Bryant's garage, investigators found a black cloth satchel with Texas Woman's University printed on the side. It matched the bag Jackie had been seen carrying at the bar the night she was killed. Also in the trash bin, a large white plastic zip tie with blonde hair caught in the clasp. DNA testing later confirmed it was Jackie's hair. A military-style knife found inside Bryant's home later tested positive for the presence of blood. A stun gun discovered in Bryant's vehicle carried Jackie's DNA on its electrodes. Inside Bryant's bedroom, investigators found a receipt time-stamped 4:43 a.m. confirming the Walmart purchase. A cell phone battery believed to belong to Jackie was found in his car. And in the backyard of Bryant's home, investigators found a blue children's paddling pool, the same design as the one recovered at Acorn Woods Park near Grapevine Lake. Beside the pool, there was a circular barren patch of earth where the grass had died, the size and shape of a second pool that had been removed. The pool he had used to transport and burn Jackie's body. Investigators also confirmed that Bryant had used Jackie's cell phone after her death. According to Caitlin Mathis, in the days following the murder, someone used Jackie's phone to add her on Facebook. Right after the murder, Mathis told 48 Hours, he took Jackie's phone and used it to add me on Facebook. The medical examiner's findings were equally damning. Jackie's hyoid bone, a U-shaped bone deep in the throat that anchors the tongue, was fractured. A forensic anthropologist testified that fracturing the hyoid bone requires direct forceful pressure to the upper neck, consistent with strangulation by hands or a ligature. A zip tie, the expert confirmed, could have caused that injury. Jackie also had blunt force trauma to her head. She had stab wounds that showed signs of hemorrhaging, indicating she was alive when they were inflicted. Her ribs were fractured. Critically, the medical examiner testified that Jackie had no soot in her airways. She was not alive when her body was set on fire. There was no evidence of sexual assault. Bryant's own claim that Jackie had died during consensual sex was systematically dismantled by the prosecution's evidence. Charles Dean Bryant went to trial in Tarrant County in April 2018, nearly 2 years after Jackie Vandegrift's death. In her opening statement, defense attorney Glynis McGinty did not deny that Bryant had dismembered Jackie's body. She could not. Both sides had already conceded that much. Instead, she argued that Jackie's death had been an accident, that she had died of asphyxiation after Bryant placed a zip tie around her neck during a consensual sexual encounter, that he had panicked, and that everything that followed, the dismemberment, the burning, the shovel, the attempted burial, was the desperate act of a man in shock, not a murderer. None of the evidence lines up with murder, McGinty told the jury. The prosecution, led by Lucas E. Allen and Anna Hernandez, offered a different account. They argued that Bryant had lured Jackie to his home in Hazlet, that he had strangled her to death, and that what followed was not panic, but deliberate, methodical concealment. They pointed to the stab wounds inflicted while Jackie was still alive. They pointed to the fractured ribs. They pointed to the removal of her heart from her chest, a detail so specific, so deliberate, that Prosecutor Allen told the jury it could not be explained by any version of an accident. The jury heard from the group of women who had been at Shots and Crafts that night, from bar employees who placed Jackie and Bryant together. They reviewed hours of surveillance footage. They heard from DNA analysts, forensic anthropologists, and the medical examiner. They saw the evidence photographs, the zip tie, the knife, the stun gun, the TW bag pulled from the trash. The trial lasted a week. After 2.5 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on the charge of capital murder. Charles Dean Bryant was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He received an additional 20-year sentence for tampering with evidence. The sentences were ordered to run concurrently. He is currently incarcerated at the William P. Clements Unit in Potter County, Texas. Jackie Vandegrift walked into a bar on a Tuesday night in September looking for a job. She was 24 years old, in the middle of her college degree, already licensed in one profession and working toward another. She was funny and warm and smart, and she trusted the world enough to talk to strangers. She did nothing wrong that night. Nothing. The system had, in fact, tried to protect her. Or rather, it had tried to protect someone else, and in doing so, should have protected everyone around him. Charles Bryant had been arrested for criminal trespass. He had been arrested for stalking. He had been issued protective orders. He had violated them. And each time, he had posted bond and walked out. The case prompted renewed conversations in Texas and beyond about what stalking charges should mean in practice, whether the mechanisms that exist on paper are sufficient to protect people before someone gets hurt. Advocacy groups pointed to Bryant's case as a demonstration of what can happen when a demonstrably dangerous individual cycles through the system without meaningful consequence. But the final word belongs not to the legal system, not to the investigators, and not to the man who took her life. It belongs to Jackie. Remember her as she was. 24 years old, studying nutrition at Texas Woman's University in Denton, Texas. A licensed esthetician, a graduate of Wakeland High School, someone who made the people around her feel like they could be exactly themselves, someone with plans. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in real investigations, shocking cases, and justice served, please subscribe, leave a comment, and join us as we explore more true crime stories.